I want to welcome to the show someone who, at this point, should need no introduction, but is Chris Parkinson, the man responsible for writing that advert. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you, and it's good to be here.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, no. I mean, that's fine. I mean, to be honest, you wrote me an email. I was like, why not? Why the hell not? It's not been invited to be on a podcast very often. So, no, it's delightful to be asked, and it's good to be here.
So I'm the first.
I think so, yeah.
That's so awesome.
To be honest, I don't think a lot of people here in the UK really know what podcasts are.
Really?
Because, I don't know, everyone just listens to Radio 4 all the time. So
It's funny. Actually, I've found that a lot of, at least in my listenership, is very, there's a lot of UK folks.
Right, okay, well, maybe they are all listening to podcasts. Maybe I just don't know exactly what's going on. I'm just not in the loop.
Yeah, actually...
I'm just there listening to the Today programme on Radio 4. And they're tuning into all these podcasts. I literally have no idea, but it's... I've found out quite a bit about podcasts over the last year and a half.
Yeah. All right. Before we get too far ahead, let's start at the beginning. You kind of are billed as a poet and a prankster. And I love the idea of pranksters. They sort of went away in the 60s here in the U.S.
No, there was some great ones. I can never quite remember exactly who they are, but yeah, it sadly seems to be a bit of a dying art.
Yeah, and it's kind of a left wing or anti-establishment sort of art too, as well. Jello Biafra was a bit of an advocate of pranks. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, of course, yeah. The Kennedys, I mean, my favourites. I'm a big fan of William Ireland, who faked at least 4 Shakespeare plays, and one of which was performed before he was ever found out.
Oh wow, yeah.
He mostly did it to impress his dad, because his dad thought he'd never amount to anything. So he started and his dad was obsessed with Shakespeare, and so William Ireland just started making all these Shakespeare plays out of nowhere. Like originally, he was just like, "Oh, look, I found a letter from Shakespeare, Dad," and then by the end, he wrote 4 new plays, one of which was performed at the Globe before they ever realised he was just making it all up as he was going along.
That's amazing.
Carry on. So pranks.
Yes. Okay. So what led you to do this particular one? Because it's sort of, it's avant-garde, but it's also, it's just weird, man. It's not political, that's for sure. It's like human experiments. It's behavior. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've been doing stuff like this all my life, but it's certainly the first time it's ever ended up becoming a Hollywood movie or anything like that. So, it certainly was quite a surprise. It was a bit of a weird summer because about 2 weeks before that, I'd posted up on it's a local council website. Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to report, potholes in the street and that. So I reported a vortex to another dimension in,
yeah, I saw that online.
In a residential street. And that was on the news. And I was just like, whoa, that was a bit weird. It was like newspapers and that, and Have I Got News for You, and things like that reporting on this vortex to another dimension. And then the walrus one followed about 2 weeks afterwards. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. I've been doing this sort of thing literally pretty much all my life. And then all of a sudden, they're being picked up by the papers. Suddenly there's all these weird things going on in Brighton. Inspiration behind it, in some ways it was one of many. But it certainly arrives sort of full formed in my head, and it's it's a good story as we I'm sure she'll discover. But,
that's really what it was. You just had that whole vision. You said, what if,
Yeah. I mean, I can remember the exact day. And it was your standard day at work. I was popping across the road to buy a cheese sandwich, and then this idea comes in my head. And at the time, it wasn't even necessarily a walrus. It was just a crazy old man in this. It was quite a desirable property, looking for somebody to dress as some kind of strange animal. Walruses fit perfectly, but depending on my mood this afternoon, it could easily have been a tapir. The film would be quite the same, or even exist if it had been a tapir. I'm not sure.
Does that property actually exist?
I have. Well, Queen's Park in Brighton has got loads of big surrounding it, and it's quite. I imagine a free room in one of those very showy houses overlooking the park.
Gotcha.
Would
So
be
you
a
were
bit of a draw. I think that was part of the idea as well. I got a lot of replies, and
which is fascinating.
oh yeah. I mean, the local paper actually did a poll, and they said, "Would you be prepared to dress as a walrus in exchange for free rent?" And 68% of the people who responded to the poll were like, "Yes."
If I was single, I was with you up until the point where you started throwing fish and crabs. That's where I was out.
Yeah. I mean, the fish and crabs, obviously, it's a deal breaker for some.
Yes, I'm not a seafood guy as it is, but then raw, even worse. So, I was out there. And the workshop was very creepy.
Oh, the workshop. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with the workshop.
You threw that in on purpose, so that was like, you can't go in.
I was going to make his walrus suit somewhere.
Yes, that was pretty obvious. So, okay, so this idea comes to you fully formed, and did you already know about Gumtree, or had you already done that? How'd you put 2 and 2 together?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I could have written it as a short story, but that's not really what I've ever done. And Gumtree seemed a perfect venue. It's partly it's free, which always helps as if you're putting adverts out. They actually got in touch with me afterwards and offered me free adverts for life, which was very kind of them. But I've not placed one so far, apart from to get rid of a big load of white material in our house, because I just don't feel it's it's a bit too obvious if they know what you're up to.
Yes, that's true.
But, I mean, I definitely shared a friend's room to let thing on Facebook a while ago, and somebody was just like, "What the hell is this? This is a terrible prank. It's not even a joke."
Really?
Get my friend somebody to live in their house.
Really? They didn't think it was funny?
Well, I mean, it was a pretty normal room to let advert. I was just trying to help a friend out. But...
in a fairly well put together walrus suit, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was one of the main reasons I wasn't able to hold the auditions myself. That and not owning the big house overlooking Queen's Park.
Yes, that is a wrinkle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come up with this crazy idea, you post it, and the news picks up on it. How fast?
It was very fast. I mean, at the time, I was still doing the occasional shift at this pub I used to work at, and so
I found a local article, and I think it might have been the one that you're talking about.
I don't know if it was the same day or if it was the next day. I'm not sure, but I was there working behind the bar, pulling pints, and the landlord was upstairs, Matt, just printing out. Like, he was like, here's one from the Sun, here's one from the Daily Star, here's one from the Metro, just printing out the different articles off the newspapers. It was ridiculous, and then it was on Radio 4 on Saturday morning. It was all over the place. It was Huffington Post. I mean, it was in the back of the Sunday Times. It suddenly went everywhere, and there was a lot of people talking about living with this walrus guy, who I guess at that time they just assumed existed.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Why?
Well, no, exactly.
I mean, it's creepy, but like if you're going to advertise it, the thinking is, obviously he's not going to be cutting people into ribbons in his basement if you're going to be so bold about it. You know what I mean? Although, who knows now? Who's following up on those ads, I would wonder.
It's hard to know. I've not checked that email address for a while, but
I mean, it's genius in the way it's so provocative. I gotta say, man, it's genius.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I was essentially I put that advert in like June 2013 last year, and then I got a message. Basically, I got married about a month afterwards. So I got a message before then.
Oh, okay.
Somebody my mates just heard Kevin Smith talking about your walrus on the
radio.
June
25th.
On the podcast. That was it, yeah. So I got a message saying, Kevin's talking about your advert and he wants to make a film out of it. And I was like, right, okay, fine. Sort of ignored it at the time. And then I went away. So I was pretty much, what with getting married, going home, pretty much off contact of anything for 3 weeks.
Wait, so a friend just left that message on your voicemail?
Yeah. And I was just like, well, I'm sure Kevin might have mentioned it on his. I don't personally, until then, I'd not really listened to his podcast.
That's even better. That makes the story even better.
Yeah, and so I was just like, well, that sounds, fair dues, and then just like went off, got back 3 weeks later, towards the end of July, and I was just like, oh, I've got a lot of messages, and then there was the video of Kevin talking at Comic-Con and all that, and I was like, oh my god, bloody hell, this is actually a thing. This actually seems to be happening. So I was like, has anyone got Kevin Smith's email address? Can anyone help me get in touch with him?
So did he personally reach out to you via email, or was it his people?
He did, yes, but not until sort of September, and I think sort of various things were happening. Obviously, you've talked about this. You're starting to make this film, and a lot later when I met him, and he was just going, and so I was getting all these messages from people saying, "I know that guy." And I don't know if I'm doing his voice right. It's not. I'm not even attempting to do his voice. That's just my sort of standard American
yes.
one. I know that guy, and so he was saying, "What? You know the old man who wants his lodger to dress as a walrus that I'm making a film about? You know him?" And sadly, they were like, "No. I just know Chris, who's put up that advert." And so I got an email from him in September going, dude, Walrus brother, greetings. And then it all went on from there. So, no, I mean, I more or less figured at some point they'd get in touch. The trouble is it's quite sort of hard to figure out how to get in touch with someone like that.
Yes,
I could tweet at him, and, there's only another 2.3 million people tweeting at Kevin Smith at this point. But, I figured it would happen, and, so it did.
But the funny thing is you even put a response to your ad.
Got updated.
I assume you got flooded with responses, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the responses, and the advert was actually set up under a not my main email address, so I didn't really mind all these responses flooding in.
Were any of them creepy?
Well, I mean, to be honest,
I mean, you don't have to say any personal details about it anyway. But
great responses. They were split about 3 ways. Like there were the people who genuinely wanted somewhere to live.
Okay.
And were quite a few were like, look, I'm really up for somewhere to live. I'm not really sure about the walrus bit. Can I just pay you 80 quid a week or something instead? There were some of them who were jolly japesters and were laughing and going, ooh, I am the walrus.
Of course.
This was the point where I was thinking, oh, God, why did I pick a walrus? But I think in the end it's good that I did.
Yes,
but
the walrus and the carpenter.
And the smallest of the 3 groups were the ones who genuinely had a serious interest in sea mammals.
Ooh.
Yeah, there were marine biologists. There was somebody saying, well, I'm mostly into sea lions, but a walrus will do. There were...
Really?
Yeah, so there was... Yeah. That's almost certainly one of my top responses, mostly because it did seem absolutely deadly serious.
Wow. Is that a role play... Is it like a role play fetish for them, or is it something they want to do as a behavioral study? I mean, what? Ooh, that's kind of... It goes so many different directions.
I didn't ask, but that's certainly one of them. I was much more intrigued about meeting. I'd have certainly been keen on finding out more about the person who was more into sea lions.
Yes.
Sadly, I didn't respond to anyone, and if anybody out there did apply, I'm really sorry. I didn't have the time.
As you said,
thank you for all your messages.
Yeah, that was the other thing. I love how Scott Mosier comments during the thing about your response, about how nice it is. They both do. They comment about how polite you were. We hope you find love and a room in your life here and ever after.
Yeah. I mean, he's certainly the elderly walrus man is certainly a gentleman at this point.
Yes. He hasn't cut anyone up and put them in a walrus suit yet.
Well, we can't be certain about that.
We haven't visited that workshop yet.